been in a group of people and had an answer to a problem or a question that was asked, or a solution to a problem, or had an idea to fix something, or a new idea to introduce, and feel like you weren't heard? Feel like you were dismissed? Feel like people didn't actually listen to what you were saying? Even worse, someone else says the exact same thing, and you're like, that's what I just said. Have you ever experienced that? Hi, my name is Tammy, and welcome to the Full Weight of Joy podcast. I'm so glad you're here, and this is what we're going to talk about today. This wasn't the podcast that I was expecting to drop today, but this is a question that multiple people and several of my clients have come to me with this, and I thought it would be a great just to talk about it for a moment. So this will be a shorty episode, but I think that it's going to hit home for some of you, and it also kind of sets up some of the next podcast episodes, I don't know why it's such a hard word today. I don't know, some of the next podcast episodes that I'm going to talk about that have to do with conflict resolution and conflict management and how to be seen and heard and how to understand how you're coming across. And so I figured this would be a great way to introduce that and to get you excited about it. And then also give you some tips on how can you be heard. How can you be seen? How can you get your point across when you feel like you're not? And let me set the scene here a little bit. First of all, if you are watching on YouTube, that this is not my normal recording location. I am actually in Germany right now with Kyle's family, and the kids are at home with grandparents. Like, they are having a blast and finishing up the school year. And it was just a quick trip, and I just felt like I needed to come on here and share with you. I would be doing it outside because the view is absolutely gorgeous. However, it's freezing, and I didn't dress appropriately for it. I just have a light jacket, and it's a little bit colder than that. But I digress. Here we are. When we're in a room, especially the more crowded it is, I know that there's some of you who are like, nope, I get my point across no matter what. But let's just say for the majority of us, a lot of times we'll have a great idea. We'll have the answer, or at least have some suggestions of how we can get to the answer. And we feel like we're not heard. Or we have an initiative that's important for the organization, whether it's ministry, whether it's a business, whether it's even a family. And we have an initiative that we want to push, a value that we need to envelop and to grow. And people don't realize why. So I just want to talk about that for a minute with you, because being heard is really important, because I have no doubt that idea, that solution, that answer is the one that everyone's looking for. It has nothing to do with the answer itself that they're not listening to. We are inundated with information. I know I've used this stat before, and I need to look it up exactly again to make sure. Like, I know that I think it's 60 years ago, so not that long ago, in our parents' lifetime and some of our lifetime. I'm not quite 60, but I'm a couple years, right? 15 years I'll be there. But 60 years ago, that's not that long ago. Today, we have more information, and we have to process more information in 1 hour than 60 years ago they did in a lifetime. So let that settle in for a moment. And you wonder why people are not hearing you. It has nothing to do with the answer that you're giving them or the project that you're presenting them. There's so much information, so much noise out there, that if you don't present it in a way that actually allows them to hear it, they're not going to hear it. So your job as the provider here, as the answerer, as the person who has the idea, it's your job to take a moment to think about who your audience is. Who do you need to listen to it? That's how I'll say. Who is listening to this, and who do you need to hear your answer? And then you need to frame it in a way. You have to understand what motivates them, what's important to them. How does your initiative, your answer, your solution solve their problem for them? The one that they have right now. What's in it for them? When you come at it from a different perspective of, hey, John, I know that this would help you in XYZ way. I know that you're having these problems, and this is the solution that will help you. even if it's something that you need for your own department. I have a mentorship group that I meet with bi-weekly, and this is one of the things is they tell me that my division, that my department is important. And yet when I put things up that are important for this, no one listens. And so I asked her, I was like, so how does your department affect the whole organization? How does she just has herself and 2 interns. How do you affect the entire company? How does it having a strong section, how does your results trickle down and trickle up? And I guess it wouldn't trickle up, flow up and flow down. And so when you step back and you look at the motive and the mission of the audience, whether it's one or many, take a moment to ask yourself, what's in it for them? What do they need to hear in order to hear my response? How do I frame it in a way that immediately shows them that I understand their actual need, that I wasn't just throwing out random ideas, but I actually considered what they wanted, what they needed done, or what they needed solved? Because when you take time to do this, a lot of times people they have an idea and they blurt it out, especially if you're in a group, if you're in a conference room and you've just got answers, you might have the missing information that others don't have. And so with that, we have to take a moment and we have to ask ourselves, what's in it for them? What is the one thing that I can say right now that they will hear? Because once they start hearing you, then all of a sudden they're able to now shift and say, okay, tell me about your idea. And then because they know that it affects them directly. Again, this is not something we have to take offense to because, again, we have so much information, so much data being thrown at us. And I have no doubt that whatever problem they have is not the only problem that they're dealing with. They have probably home life problems. They have work, auto problems. They've got so many, how many of us? I know that I rarely have a problem to solve in only one area of my life. Even with parenting, I've got 90, right? Even with the dogs, even working with the dogs or the chickens, I've got multiple things that I'm working on with them. Or it's spring, trying to spring clean and get everything ready because everything's growing, whether you're ready or not. And you got to start mowing and clipping and watering and all of that. We have so many things on our mind. If you want to be heard, you have to give them a reason to hear you. This is your opportunity to step back. Sometimes that means setting down our ego and thinking that we know best and actually dig into what is the source of the problem? What is the motivation of the person who's actually asking the questions or who has the actual problem? Because when we step back and we ask ourselves this, what will they hear? What actually do they need? Sometimes we can provide a better solution. Sometimes we see that our solution actually wasn't as helpful as we thought. Or sometimes we're like, no, this is right. And you can actually be heard. And isn't being heard and considered, isn't that our goal in this moment? We may not have it all the way, but at least to be seen and heard and known that, hey, we are someone who you can come to for solutions. Or at least let's bounce ideas back off. Let's brainstorm together. But when you're in a crowded room, instead of deciding in advance that you just aren't heard, so you're just going to keep your mouth shut, what if you already knew the motivations for everyone in the room? What if you knew their vision and their mission and what was important to them, their values and what projects they were working on? What if you did your homework and then were able to speak at it from, hey, Susan, I know that you're working with XYZ. This is something that we're doing in our department that may be able to help you. I know that this is a problem you have. Have you considered? When you do that, when you pull back and you lower your ego a little bit and realize that it's not about you, it's about the outcome, right? It's about working together. It's about the collaboration. It's about having your information with their information makes a better product, a better outcome. Even with your family, This is something that I am working on with my son, is when I'm asking him questions, instead of coming at him with the solution, understanding what motivation does he have in this moment. Typically, it is to control the situation and to prove that he's almost a man and know that he knows what to do. But if I understand that, then instead of coming out with solutions, then I get to ask him questions to help him see that he may not have thought everything all the way through. But when you step back and you look and you ask, what is the motivation of the person in front of me? How can I make myself heard by them? How can they see me and see me as an ally instead of a competitor or a threat or more noise? A lot of times when they're listening, they're not actually listening. How many times have you been and you listen to somebody, you even look in them in the eyes, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh wait, can you repeat that? I was thinking of something else. So much noise is going on that when we talk about it from what's in it for them, it snaps you out. It sets you apart. And then it lets the audience know, the listener know, that I've considered your needs. This is not just what I think, but this is what I've done my research and what I believe will help you. Who doesn't want to be helped, right? We all need help. We all need support. We all need guidance. We all need additional ideas. When you walk into a room, know the motivations of the room. Know the people that you're talking to. Know the problems and the source of the problems that they are experiencing. Look at how what you do help the other person, make their life easier. If it shortens their project, tell them, hey, are you interested in shortening the lifespan of your project or the timeline of your project? I can help you be more efficient. Or if there's productivity, I have an idea that'll help you be more productive. I would start with, hey, what would additional productivity do for your department? But by looking at what their motivation is and stepping back and framing it in a way they can hear it, it changes the whole conversation. All of a sudden, you become the expert in the room because you know how to answer it for them. And so I know it's simple to say, and it takes some work. It takes some time to sit back, and you have to ask yourself, what are their motivations? What are their visions? And sometimes it's as easy as asking them, like, hey, I just want to just ask them some questions. Everyone loves to ask questions and gain clarity, but ask them what their motivation is. Ask them, like, hey, what is the outcome that you're looking for here? And there's another tool that if you're working with a team, if you understand the Enneagram, you will be able to understand the motivations for each person. Because even if they're in the same department, chances are their outcomes are based on their own core avoidances or their own core desires, these core motivations that are innate inside of us and that drive our reactions. And when you start to step back and you start to ask yourself these questions and ask what's in it for the others, then now you move from reactionary mode to response mode. Instead of coming out with them with more information, you're actually able to give them valuable insight. So insight is so much more important than information. We have plenty of information, but we need support, we need motivation, and we need insight. We need someone to say, yes, I hear you, and here is, have you considered? That just by saying, have you considered, instead of you should, even that lowers the tension and allows you to be heard in a completely different way. So this month in May, I've got we are in May. Yes, May. We're in May. I was about to say, are we in June already? Because I've been recording things for June. So I was like, yeah, it's June. But no, it's May. It is May. I've got some great episodes for you coming. We're going to talk about conflict resolution. We're going to talk about conflict management. How do we, without even understanding what others' motivations are, how can we manage our own? How can we be seen? How can we be heard? And how can we address, what are ways that we can walk into a room, whether we know them or not, and we can be prepared to have a conversation? What if we have to have a difficult conversation? How can we prepare for that, even if we don't know how they're going to react? I have some tools for you. I have some ideas, I have some tips, and I have some stories that I can't wait to share with you. But I just wanted to get this first. I thought it was really important that I jump on here and I change out the podcast that was supposed to be this week and let you know that there's ways to be seen and heard without having to be forceful. You don't need to be an extrovert. You don't need to be louder. You don't need to be quieter. You don't need to be any more you than you. This is an opportunity for you to really understand the people in the room. When others feel heard and understood, their defenses go down. They actually lock in and will pay more attention to what you're saying. And you'll see even the body language releases a little bit when because they feel seen and heard. And when they feel seen and heard, then they will see and hear you back. So if this is something that you want to talk about, if this is something that you struggle with, which is, it's not uncommon, whether you are the one hearing or the one you're like, Tammy, I don't hear when other people say, I immediately feel defensive. We can talk about it. Because either way, let's understand why. We understand what's in it for them. And when we understand and we can come at it at a different way, it is so much easier to be seen and heard and understood. And it's so much easier to be able to give feedback, to give support, to give valuable insight to what others are doing, and also to get it for ourselves as well. Because when we lower our defenses and we become better listeners, and when we start to look at what the needs of others are in the room, others will start to understand ours as well. And so I can't wait to share more with you. I can't wait to share conflict resolution. I can't wait to talk about the Enneagram more. It's been a while. It's been a minute since I've talked about the Enneagram. And it's one of the things that I have a coach who is helping me really hone some of my messaging. And she's like, Tammy, I've watched the last 10, 12 episodes of your podcast, and you have rarely mentioned some of the things, like your core perspective. And that's one of the things that I promised her I would start doing, is sharing more of my core perspective with you. Not just tips and tricks, but really the how and what I've spent the better part of 2 decades of my life studying, which is human nature. Back in, even when I was in the Air Force, my job was people. It was helping the people who worked under me get what they needed, the people who work or above me get what they needed, and to manage both in a way that used tools efficiently and effectively. So management and people have been my thing. And so one of the things that has helped me is the understanding the Enneagram. I wish I had it back when I was in the Air Force. I think that it would have been a lot easier to understand my boss and the people who worked for me or with me, really. They were way smarter than I am. But when we use tools like the Enneagram or Clifton Strengths or the understanding personal dynamics, when we start stepping into self-mastery, which is more than just knowing your need in the moment, we can step back and we actually we can be the best version of ourselves. And so that's where we are heading. And I feel like the first thing we need to do is really hone in on this conflict resolution, this conflict management, because we all have conflicts. We all walk into a room and we're misunderstood or not heard. We've all said something but meant something different, or they took it in a different way. We've all had to have difficult conversations, right? And so wouldn't you like a tool that helps you with all of that? That by understanding your own tendencies, your own nature, it will help you walk in and understand how you want to respond and the insight you want to give, or how you want to be received or perceived. So if you knew that there was a tool that could help you, wouldn't you want to know about it? Well, that's what I'm going to share this next couple of weeks, the next couple of podcast episodes. And I want you to send me questions. If you have questions about any of this or anything else that we talk about, no questions are off the table. You know that. Send me a message on LinkedIn or Instagram. Those are the two that I get all the time. I've been hanging out on LinkedIn lately. If you haven't gone over there, then I would love to chat with you there. And if you haven't tried the Purpose Mapping Quiz, I highly suggest that you do it. We all have a purpose archetype. We all have this limiting belief, or we want more. I love it when I just want more and I don't know what more is. I can help you with that. And the purpose mapping quiz is the first step. And so send me an email or go to tammymariecoaching.com/quiz and take the 7-question. It takes 2 or 3 minutes max. You just pick the best answer. There is no right or wrong answer. It's the best answer. And just to see, take that first step, because again, information alone is not enough. If it was, we would already have the life that we're dreaming of. It's the action behind it. It's understanding the information. It's understanding why we do what we do that allows us to take the right actions to get what we want, to get uncomfortable in the right ways, to get where we need to go. And so if that's something that interests you, go take the quiz and then shoot me a DM or send me an email or reach out at some way. There's a link also to book a call. So book an elite purpose mapping call. That's a mouthful, but elite purpose mapping call. Yeah. Where we're going to go through and we'll map your purpose. We'll map it and you'll have a blueprint on what your next steps are. All right, friend. Thank you for letting me jump in here and change up the order of things. I know you're like, Tammy, I didn't know what you were doing anyway. So I get that, but I appreciate it anyway. And so I will talk to you soon. I hope you guys have a fantastic week. Send me a message on LinkedIn. I would love to connect with you. I'd love to know what resonates. If you have not left me a rate and review on Apple Podcasts, I would be so grateful if you would do that. It helps in multiple ways. One, it helps me see what's resonating, and it also helps the algorithm know and recommend this to others. And if you know someone else who could benefit from this, who you know that they're not seen or heard in whatever group that they're in, whether it's a friend group, family group, work group, or even just an entrepreneur trying to be seen and heard online, have them, send them this podcast and encourage them to reach out, because I would love to chat with them. All right. With that, friend, choose joy until joy chooses you. I've got a couple of videos that I'm going to shoot tomorrow while I'm outside, just so you guys can see the amazing countryside, because it is absolutely gorgeous here. It's been 60s during the day, and then as soon as the sun starts going down, it gets cold quick. But I can't wait to share some of the scenery with you and just share some of the insights that God's been putting on my heart that I feel like it's something I need to say. All right, choose joy until joy chooses you. Bye for now.